Uh, no. Testing 1, 2, 3.
الزانية
Testing 1, 2, 3.
الزانية
All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Quran in English. My name is Ahmad, and I'm happy to take you through a new chapter, new section. Last episode was not great. I'm definitely struggling, but like I said, I'm going to power through and hopefully make it. But let me explain to you what we're doing here before I get into the verses. I'm here to see what the Quran has to say, because I believe that it is the word of God as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, and I would like to learn what is in it. And I'm reading it because I speak Arabic and I speak English, but I'm trying to see what it says before I look into other explanations and perspectives, just to see if I can read it all and see if I can understand it. So I'm not claiming to be a resource. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I've not studied the Quran. In fact, this is my first read through for a lot of the Quran. And I'm just trying to share my understanding and document my learning process, just so that it's there forever on the internet and you can kind of see it whenever. You can kind of see how far I've come also. Anyway, I'm coming at the Quran from an outsider's perspective. I don't have a lot of knowledge or training, and I'm trying to see what I can understand. And there we go. That's the frame. That's the setup. We're gonna get into some very spicy verses for today. So I think having yesterday's episode was important, because we're going to talk about some difficult topics. But off we go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Here we go.
سورة أنزلناها وفرضناها وأنزلنا فيها آيات بينات لعلكم تذكرون.
Okay. All right. So it starts with a surah, which means a chapter. This is what we're reading. Surah An-Nur, the chapter of light, actually. This chapter we have sent down, and we have made it obligatory. Everyone must follow it. And we have revealed in it verses that are clear, so that you may take heed. Very clear. It's setting off the scene. This is a chapter that is talking about some serious stuff that you have to follow, that is very clear. Some parts of the Quran are super clear, and some parts of the Quran less so.
الزانية والزاني فاجلدوا كل واحد منهما 100 جلدة ولا تأخذكم بهما رأفة في دين الله إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر وليشهد عذابهما طائفة من المؤمنين.
My headset was telling me recharge batteries, so that's why I kind of jumped. Give me 2 seconds, let me grab a charger quickly. This is off to a great start, but anyway, the verse is very interesting. I'll be right there to discuss it. is working. Yeah, I hope so. Anyway. Al-zaniyatu wal-zani. Okay, these two words, the fornicator and the fornicatress. I don't feel like fornicator is the right term. Fornicator means the one who fornicates. Fornicate is the act of sex. The definition of zani and zaniya is technically sex outside of marriage. There are two ways to view sex outside of marriage. One is any sexual act that is not within the confines of marriage, and the other is any sexual relations that you have while you are married, but not to the person you're married to. So outside of marriage can mean you're married and then you do it with someone outside, or as I said, the first definition is that there is no marriage and you have sex. I personally lean towards the more liberal of the two perspectives. I don't think zina is jins. Listen, again, I started this episode by saying I don't know. I'm not going to speak as an authority. I'm not going to tell you what you have to believe. I'm telling you what perspective I'm coming from, and honestly my perspectives have been changing a lot since I've been reading the Quran. So I'm very much saying this with saying that I could be wrong, and most Muslim scholars would disagree with me. Won't be the first time. But yeah, I take it as the relationship of being in a marriage and then having sex with somebody else, rather than having sex with somebody without. Can I even say that? I don't know. Okay, let's just take it as one of those two circumstances. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. I'm going to tell you that I think of it as, the way that I think of it as is breaking the vow of marriage. And I'll explain to you why as we get through the verses a little bit more. Like being in a marriage and then having sex with somebody else. I think we can all agree that being in a marriage and having sex with somebody else is absolutely zina. We all agree on that. The question is whether sex out before marriage is a separate story. I don't know. But anyway, let's just take it as the adulterer, the one that breaks the vow of a relationship or marriage, because that is true. It might be more than that, but if we take it as an adulterer, you kind of get to see how this becomes a bit more specific. So the adulterer and the adulteress, whip them, flog them, each of them with 100 lashes. Now, if I remember, there is another penalty somewhere in the Quran that talks about a different punishment. I'm not going to get into the verses of which one supersedes the other or what came first, because the idea, I think, is that one of them is superseding the other, one came before the other. I don't have the knowledge to be able to express, but let's just look at the verses that are in front of us now. It's saying, whip them 100 times. Not only that, and do not let it not take you from them, like don't take pity over them. The Quran is saying, don't pity them. Yeah, whipping people 100 times sounds very harsh and very difficult and very stressful. And as a pacifist myself who doesn't want to fight and doesn't want to do anything, I always thought I was going to struggle with these verses. And I've always struggled with these verses of like, why is it an eye for an eye? Why is it whipping them? But the more that I read the Quran, the more that it starts making sense. I even saw a video yesterday after my YouTube episode, so it was pretty bad, about like models of negotiation and agreement, and it seems that an eye for an eye is the best model that wins in the prisoner game philosophy conundrum. There's like it's hard to explain what that is, but the point being is that they tested a bunch of different tactics. They had like 60 tactics, 30 of them nice, 30 of them not nice. And tit for tat was nice because essentially it's always be good, but if somebody hurts you, hurt them once and then continue being good, right? That was the best model for success, which is an eye for an eye, which is what the Quran is saying, which is why I'm not reacting to 100 whips in the way that I would have reacted to it when I was younger, which was, oh, this is extreme. I feel like there's a purpose to it, and I feel like there has to be a punishment to it. But wait, there's more. So don't take pity on them in the religion of God if you really believe in God and the day and the final day. There's a reason why this punishment is the way that it is. Not only that, let witness their punishment. Again, it's the word torment, but I understand how punishment is. Let witness their torment a group of believers. So not only should they be whipped and have no pity upon them, but a group of believers have to see them being whipped. Which says a lot of things. A, it says that this is a very serious offense. And this breaks, this requires a very specific punishment. And this is very clear. And it has to be observed by a bunch of believers for also the power of reinstating the severity of this situation and this difficulty. And as a person who's been struggling with the temptations of the devil my whole life, and now is no exception, I can tell you how difficult it is to be true and to be good. And in this transgression, it seems to be, this is one of the hard lines that the Quran is super clear about. This is the punishment that needs to happen. But, okay, here's one thing I'll tell you. I'll tell you that I don't, this isn't really done in our modern day, as far as I know. I don't think that the people are being whipped. Maybe in certain parts of the countries, but generally, yeah, adultery, where you break the vows of marriage by having sex with somebody else. I feel like we're more lenient these days towards it. But again, I'm ignorant, not just of the Quran, but I'm also ignorant of modern affairs in the countries. So if you know in your countries, please let me know where that comes from. But I personally don't think that I've seen this as the testament. Like, I've never heard of anybody being whipped. I'm sure adultery happens. I'm certain adultery happens. And I'm sure they haven't been whipped. Yeah, my mind just crossed. I mean, like, just as being a guy, I've known so many stories from guy friends and families and whatever. And I could tell you that these punishments are not being done. So, does that mean that these punishments should be done? I think, according to the Quran, yes. And there's a reason for it. Because of the severity of the crime, something about breaking the vows of a relationship or a marriage and having sex with somebody else. There's something utterly heinous about it that I don't fully understand. I could not explain to you why, but my trust of the Quran and my trust of God makes me believe that this is necessary, which is a more extreme view than a lot of the people that run the countries today that are a lot more religious and a lot more well-studied than me. Why they don't do this, I don't know. There is a footnote here. Let's see. The address here is to legal authorities. Adultery has to be proven either by confession or with the testimony of 4 reliable witnesses. Well, we're about to get to that. Anyway.
الزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية أو مشركة والزانية لا ينكحها إلا زان أو مشرك وحرم ذلك على المؤمنين.
Here it says, again, the fornicator, but it's not the right word, the adulterer, male adulterer, does not marry except the female adulteress or the polytheist woman. So here we see an equivalence. We see an equivalence of adultery and being a polytheist. And I feel like the Quran has kind of been hinting a lot of things that like kind of align to associating others with God. But here it's kind of drawing them the same, essentially telling the person who commits adultery can only marry somebody else who commits adultery or a polytheist, and vice versa for the female. The female can لا ينكحها, he cannot be married. The female adulteress cannot be married except by a fornicator, an adulterer, or a polytheist man, and it is forbidden for that on the believers. Now, this footnote is a bit of an interesting one, It is reported in hadith collected by Timrizi that Marthad ibn Abi Marthad, companion of the Prophet, asked if he could marry Anak, a pagan prostitute he befriended in Mecca before he accepted Islam. So the verse was revealed. However, if someone committed a sin and later genuinely repented, they will be accepted by Allah and the rest of the believers. And we are going to see a form of repentance and a form of an exception to it. I don't take too much heed in this, but I think it is important to understand the conditions at which this is being done. I feel like this isn't judging people on their ignorance. This is judging people on when they know that it's wrong and they know that they should not do this, right? And therefore, with this proclamation, I feel like if you had done something in your past and you didn't know it was not wrong, and then you learned about it in the Quran, you realize that it's wrong, and then you kind of change your ways and you move forward, God will forgive. And we are going to see these verses over the next couple of these words over the next couple of verses.
والذين يرمون المحصنات ثم لم يأتوا بأربعة شهداء فاجلدوهم 80 جلدة ولا تقبلوا لهم شهادة أبدا وأولئك هم الفاسقون.
All right, several things are being said in this verse. First of all, it seems to be closer towards the sex before marriage as well. Second of all, there is an issue that comes up with the whipping them for 100 times, is that it's a severe claim, and what happens if someone lies and says they cheated without having proof? And this is where this verse comes in. Anyway, let's see what it says. And those who accuse the chaste woman, and this is why I'm probably wrong about zina being sex outside of marriage, as in before marriage, because chaste talks about a woman that has preserved her chastity. Therefore, it has nothing to do with her breaking the vows of marriage. Why do I struggle to accept with this concept? Because I'm stubborn and arrogant, I guess. Let it just sit with me. I change my mind very slowly, even though it doesn't look like I changed my mind. Anyway, those who accuse a chaste woman, but a chaste woman can also be within a marriage, right? If she is chaste to only her husband, then she's still chaste. It doesn't mean that she has never had sex. Aha. So maybe what I'm talking about makes sense. Oh, God. It's so hard. Anyway, those who accuse a chaste woman, a woman who has not broken the vows, they accuse her, and then they do not bring 4 witnesses. So flog them 80 times, 80 lashes, and do not accept from their testimony ever again. They are from the defiantly disobedient. What do we see here? The punishment is 4/5 the punishment of adultery. So adultery is 100 whips, and they get 80 whips if they are accusing someone without producing 4 witnesses, which also, that is a large number of witnesses. Like getting 4 witnesses. So this is kind of like as severe as the claim is. The conditions at which it must be proven are also quite intense. You need to have 4 witnesses that have seen them performing this act, which is kind of insane. And then if you accuse somebody and don't produce 4 witnesses, then the severity, like you're practically the same type of punishment that's coming towards you. So there, like, yes, the punishment is severe, but it has to be wildly viewed. Can people even get whips these days? I'm sure they can't. Sorry. So yeah, it's not just you throw the claim and therefore somebody gets whipped. It's also you have to prove it quite difficultly.
إلا الذين تابوا من بعد ذلك وأصلحوا فإن الله غفور رحيم.
Okay. And then it says, except those who repent from after that and they reform and they do good, then indeed God is oft forgiving and most merciful. So what is this talking about? Is it talking about just those who accuse? Or is it talking about the fornicators as well? Why would it be talking about the ones who accuse the fornicator but not the fornicators? Is that intentional? That accusing somebody but then repenting is fine, but then fornicating and repenting is not fine? Is that which I don't think that makes much sense. Specifically because they're both like 80 lashes worth or 100 lashes worth. I would imagine that those who repent afterwards and mend their ways, surely God is most forgiving and most merciful. But then how do you know if someone has repented and mended their ways? What if they say that they're repented but they don't? The severity of these verses indicates an intensity. Technically, this verse, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ وَأَصْلَحُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, did come after those who accuse chaste women. I mean, these verses are made clear, right? Does this exception apply to both the accusation and the adulterers, or just the accusation? Because here it's saying those are defiantly disobedient. And it doesn't describe them here. I don't know. Now we get into the accusations within a marriage.
والذين يرمون أزواجهم ولم يكن لهم شهداء إلا أنفسهم فشهادة أحدهم 4 شهادات بالله إنه لمن الصادقين.
Okay, it says, and those who accuse their spouses, and they did not have any witnesses except for themselves, so their testimony of one of them is 4 testimonies by God, which is what you need. You need 4 testimonies, or 1 partner, which is equal to 4 testimonies. However, they have to swear 4 times as much that they are from the truthful, but there is a 5th promise, a 5th swear.
والخامسة أن لعنة الله عليه إن كان من الكاذبين.
And the 5th is that the curse of God be upon him if he is one of the liars. Which I thought that he was swearing 4 times as much because he was being held to God's standard, but it's the 5th one that is being held to God's standard. I think the first one was just saying that they're the equivalent. Here they're saying the accuser must testify swearing 4 times by Allah is wrong. Here it's just equating their testimony of one of them is the testimony of 4. Here it's just the testimony of 1. If you see your partner having sex, then your testimony is 4. Obviously you have to make a testimony, but you also have to make a testimony towards God and say, and it is not wrong. You're saying that they have to swear 4 times as much? Where are we? Oh, hi, Mr. Matar. Nice to see you. How's it going? إلا أنفسهم فشهادة أحدهم 4 شهادات. One of their testimonies is 4 testimonies by God. One of their testimonies is 4 testimonies by God, not swearing 4 times by God that he's telling the truth, because it's the 5th testimony that he has, and the 5th oath that Allah may condemn him if he's lying. This is the one that he has to swear on top. First of all, he has to testify in front of everybody, then he has to testify in front of God. And this is important because it does talk about the punishment for those who break this testimony and this oath in the next couple of verses. So I just think here it's equating فشهادة أحدهم أربع شهادات. The testimony of one of them is worth 4 testimonies by God. God views one of the spouse's testimony as 4, but they also have to make a 5th one that God will curse him in case he was one of the liars.
ويدرأ عنها العذاب أن تشهد 4 شهادات بالله إنه لمن الكاذبين.
Something I noticed now it's talking about the female, whereas before it said أزواجهم, their spouses. Why is it here talking about both the spouses? Here they're saying accuse the wives, but azwajahum is gender neutral. Spouses is the correct word. Whereas here now it's saying, and it would prevent upon her the punishment that she bear witness 4 testimonies by God, and he is surely one of the liars. What if she's accusing him? Would it not be the same? Because it doesn't go about defending him, I don't think. But anyway, it's saying for her to be spared the punishment, she must swear 4 times by God that he's telling a lie. And the 5th one,
والخامسة أن غضب الله عليها إن كان من الصادقين.
and the 5th one is that the wrath of God will be upon her if he was one of the truthful. Again, the same concept. And here it says the ruling is called Il'an in Islamic legal system. Once the husband and the wife swear 5 times, specified in 24:6-9, the marriage is terminated forever, which means they can never be remarried. And it's her word against his. But we will see what God intends for them.
ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته وأن الله تواب حكيم.
And if it had not been for the grace of God upon you and his mercy, and indeed God is oft turning to mercy, oft forgiving, and all wise. Yeah. So it's kind of saying that you put it upon God, upon who will be judged. We do see. Okay, and now we see kind of the verses of talking about. Okay, so we talked about the man and the husband and the wife accusing each other and swearing by God that they will not be undone, and that eventually you can leave it up to God, and then they must be divorced and forever gone. But now we talk about the people that spread rumors, and now we talk about the people that talk about them behind their backs and kind of try to ruin the reputation of others.
إن الذين جاءوا بالإفك عصبة منكم لا تحسبوه شرا لكم بل هو خير لكم لكل امرئ منهم ما اكتسب من الإثم والذي تولى كبره منهم له عذاب عظيم.
Okay, indeed, those who brought the lie are a group from among you. Those who bring up are trying to slander are like from a group among you. Do not think that it's bad for you. Those who lie about you, those who create slanders. And there's also a morality in this lesson, because a lot of times we worry about people talking, ruining our name, saying terrible things, destroying our reputation. But it's not bad for you. Nay, it is good for you. For every person from them of what they have earned from sin. And the one who is the greatest, who took the biggest share of sin from among them, is the punishment is great. And in this is kind of, I mean, it doesn't actually say that they take the sin from you, but it does say that it's good for you. And it says it's good for you because of what he earned from sin. And it feels like they're taking the sin from you. It doesn't explicitly state this, but this kind of, it's good for you from what he earned from sin. So I'm making the logical conjecture the good that's missing is, how is it good for you? Him gaining sin, him suffering more is not necessarily good for you, but I think him taking your sin would make more sense for why it's good for you. But that's just a conjecture that I'm kind of thinking of. Yeah, here it's saying good for you because now you could tell who's a true believer and who's a hypocrite. Maybe, I don't know. But again, maybe my thing as well. I don't know either. As for their mastermind, Abdullah ibn Ubay, the leader of the hypocrites in Medina. So it's possible that, yeah, this is talking about a specific moment in the past with the Prophet Muhammad, but I feel like it can be extrapolated into a bigger lesson that we can kind of learn.
لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وقالوا هذا إفك مبين.
This is very interesting. It says, if it had not been that when you heard it, thought the believers and the believing men, believing women, thought by themselves, بأنفسهم خيرا, thought about the good in themselves, if only the believers and the male believers and female believers had thought when they heard it, thought of the good of themselves, and they had said, this is a lie that is clear. Which means what? Which means within us is a form of moral compass, and our first reaction to hearing these type of stories of cheating and lies and stealing might be condemn them, but if only the believers and believers, because they're both male and female, had thought of the well of one another, the good of one another, the good of themselves, and said that this was a lie that was clear. Again, it might be talking about a specific situation, but I think we can learn from that specific situation.
لولا جاءوا عليه بأربعة شهداء فإذ لم يأتوا بالشهداء فأولئك عند الله هم الكاذبون.
And we see the same theme recurs. Had they not brought forth 4 witnesses, then when they did not bring so if they do not bring the witnesses, then those are near God the ones that are liars. By God's perspective, if you can't produce 4 witnesses, then you're lying. So you have to produce 4 witnesses, specifically if you're saying something that is great or something that is grand. Actually, now I thought about it, in this modern day, it's actually not that hard to get 4 witnesses, considering that we have surveillance cameras, and through surveillance people can see these kind of things. Back then it would have been kind of impossible. But it's a pretty high standard. These are pretty severe punishments, whipping 100 times, whipping 80 times. So you really need to be able to produce proper evidence.
ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته في الدنيا والآخرة لمسكم فيما أفضتم فيه عذاب عظيم.
If it had not been for the grace of God upon you and His mercy in the world and the hereafter, then it would have touched you what you have rushed glibly in it concerning the punishment. You would have been touched a tremendous punishment for what you had jumped into. Had it not been for the grace of God, you would have been touched with a great punishment.
إذ تلقونه بألسنتكم وتقولون بأفواهكم ما ليس لكم به علم وتحسبونه هينا وهو عند الله عظيم.
if when you received it with your tongues and you said it with your mouths, what you do not have of it any knowledge. And I think that's kind of the important thing. Spreading rumors, and rumors can spread wildly and very easily, and people love to talk about rumors and love to gossip. And there's a very specific verse in the Quran about slanderers and gossip. If you say something that you are not sure of and you accuse somebody else of something heinous that you don't know for sure, then this is, and you thought it was insignificant or small, like, oh, everybody's talking about it, so why shouldn't I start it? You have to understand that it is with God something super serious and super great. And as we've been reading the Quran, God is severe of punishment.
ولولا إذ سمعتموه قلتم ما يكون لنا أن نتكلم بهذا سبحانك هذا بهتان عظيم.
If only when you had heard it, then you would have said, we do not have, it is not for us that we speak about this. It's not for us to speak about this because you don't know. Glory be to you, this is a slander that is great. So again, it's not for us to perpetuate slander or any kind of public indecency unless we know of it. And it is not small to talk about these things. It is huge. It is very huge, because all of these things that we're talking about are super serious. Adultery is super serious. Accusing someone of adultery is super serious. And we all have to understand the consequences of such if we believe.
يعظكم الله أن تعودوا لمثله أبدا إن كنتم مؤمنين.
Yeah, and this is exactly the same points. God warns you that if you should return to the like of it ever, that indeed you are, if you really are believers. And I feel like this is talking about the time of the Prophet, because again, this was revealed before they knew that this shouldn't be done. But it's also kind of revealed to anyone that's learning the Quran now, and anyone that is learning, as I am, about what what God says and what the perspective is. Once you learn the rule, don't ever do it again. You know, that's kind of the importance.
ويبين الله لكم الآيات والله عليم حكيم.
And God makes clear for you the verses, and indeed God is all-knowing and all-wise. Bring forth witnesses.
إن الذين يحبون أن تشيع الفاحشة في الذين آمنوا لهم عذاب أليم في الدنيا والآخرة والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون.
Indeed, those who like that they should spread immorality among those who believe. So here it's not just talking about the gossip, but those who want to spread immorality, those who want to spread corruption. And immorality in this context that we have learned is adultery. For them is a punishment that is severe, painful in this world and in the hereafter. So here what's important. It says in this world and the hereafter. Those who want to spread immorality, not only will they suffer in the hereafter, the promise from God is that they will suffer in this world. Those who want to spread corruption and spread devastation and spread hatred are going to suffer immensely. And God knows and you do not know. Now the last verse for today confuses me. Surprise, surprise.
ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته وأن الله رؤوف رحيم.
And if it had not been for the grace of God upon you and his mercy, and indeed God is full of kindness and most merciful, this is missing. You would have suffered had it not been for God's grace. I don't understand why it just says, had it not been for God's grace and mercy upon you, and God had not been ever gracious and most merciful, then what? Then what? Oh. Maybe then they wouldn't have suffered in the world and the hereafter because it's not of God's grace. Maybe that's the case. But I don't know, because it ends with Wallahu ya'lam wa antum la ta'lamun, and God knows but you do not know. If it had not been for the grace of God upon you. Is it about his knowledge? Is it about his punishment? Is it about our suffering? I don't understand. This one verse I don't get. This also next verse for tomorrow is quite exciting. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان ومن يتبع خطوات الشيطان فإنه يأمر بالفحشاء والمنكر ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته ما زكى منكم من أحد أبدا ولكن الله يزكي من يشاء والله سميع عليم. Yeah, some spicy verses coming up. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Sadaqallah al-Ali al-Azim. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Inshallah. I don't know how I'm feeling. Honestly, every day to the next is a different feeling, a different moment. And this full moon is stressing me the F out. I don't have time to explain. But thanks for watching. I love you. Get out of here. As-salami. Bye. Bye, Mr.